Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the opportunity to catch up with Tony Khan ahead of AEW All in London. Once again, live on pay-per-view from Wembley Stadium this Sunday, the 25th of August. We have a great turnout for today's session with Tony, so let's get started. But first, our traditional reminders. Please do not ask two-parted questions. It'll make it possible for us to get to as many of you as possible. And we'd appreciate you keeping the topics focused on AEW All in London. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tony for some opening thoughts, and then we're going to open the lines for your questions. Tony, good evening.
Good evening, Jim. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm really excited about this week. This is my absolute favorite week of the year. It's going to be such a great time here in London, and I'm excited to talk to all of you. This is a great part of that week, and I'm excited to get all your questions ahead of the question and answer part of our traditional session here. I did want to address one thing before we begin. I just wanted to address some reports regarding AEW potentially running an event in Australia. We can confirm that we're currently looking at various locations in Australia to potentially run an event sometime next year in 2025. We'll have more information about this in the near future. 2025 is going to be a milestone year. Just as this is a milestone year, I think 2025, even more great milestones to come. I'm excited to talk to you all right now about AEW All In. And in 2025, we just announced All In will be coming to Globe Life Field next July. And I want to thank our partners at Rev Entertainment, Texas Rangers, Mayor Jim Ross, and that Arlington Sports Commission in Texas for helping to make all that possible. It's a really exciting time for us, and excited to talk to all of you about what's to come this week with All In, the AEW All In London at Wembley Stadium, just days away. I thought we had a great debut Dynamite in Europe, our first ever UK Dynamite, our first ever Dynamite outside of North America last night, and I thought it was a tremendous show as a go-home Dynamite ahead of this big pay-per-view weekend. I'm really looking forward to the weekend television also, and of course, the big enchilada that is AEW All In. And with that, Jim, let's start the questions.
Right, strong start there, Tony. Here we go. Andrew Baydala from Final Bell Media will lead us off, and I'm going to ask Joe Torres from Contralona to be on deck. Andrew, you lead us off.
Drew, are you there?
Andrew?
Drew, I think you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hey, what's up, Drew?
Hey, Tony, sorry, wouldn't let me unmute myself. Thanks for taking the time. Good luck on Sunday.
Sure.
Congratulations on the over 50,000. I've noticed in recent interviews, you've mentioned that AEW will be back in the UK in 2025. Considering what you just said and the incredible crowd turnout and enthusiastic audiences, especially last night, that we've seen in the UK, it seems like the ideal market to bring more events to. With that in mind, is AEW considering bringing a pay-per-view and television back to England in 2025 or the UK?
Certainly on the table. It's definitely something we would consider. I absolutely love the UK. I've spent a lot of my life living in England and specifically in London. And I absolutely love it. It's great being back here, and it's great traveling in the UK. And in this case, it was our first ever AEW show in Wales and the first time we've done TV in the UK at all. It's really exciting, and there's so many great cities throughout the UK. And, you know, I've driven all around London and you know, from Fulham, not only playing all the great teams here in England, but also traveled to Wales for football, you know, many times. And there's lots of great cities all over the UK. And I know from experience in English football, there are a lot of great towns with really passionate fans, and that this is a great place to be. And you see it in wrestling that that crowd last night was just magic, and they were tremendous for Dynamite. And I'm really excited for people to see Collision this weekend with that Cardiff crowd. And it's all a big preview of what's to come this weekend. There's going to be a huge crowd at Wembley Stadium. It's going to be one of the biggest pro wrestling crowds we've ever seen, and it's going to be certainly a historic night for AEW, and really, really, really exciting times for us. Not only all the stuff I mentioned leading into this pay-per-view, but what's ahead in 2025. And absolutely, to answer your question, I do think that would be something that would be on the table for 2025, more events in the UK where we've had great success with AEW. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Andrew. Joel Torres from Contralona is next, to be followed by Jason Powell from Pro Wrestling Net. Joel.
Everything is okay. You just mentioned next year's All In Texas. Can we have a background about how this idea came up to? Why Texas after 2 years in a row in London? Obviously, this All In Texas being the first event in a big stadium in the United States. Thank you.
Well, we've had some great experiences. I think some of my greatest experiences as a wrestling promoter, I know some of my greatest experiences as a wrestling promoter have been in Texas. And I thought that would make a lot of sense. You know, All In is this massive event, and it's been the perfect place for the first 2 years of AEW All In at London Wembley Stadium. We absolutely love it here. This weekend is going to be massive, and it shows the scope of this event. For years, people have asked, when is AEW going to bring a pay-per-view to Texas? And I always wanted to bring a massive event, and we brought the biggest event possible with AEW All In coming July 12, 2025 to Texas. Of course, we're days away from AEW All In 2024, and now fans know what to expect. And I have every expectation we can fill up Globe Life Field, just as we've brought these great crowds here in London. And I think that the way it came about, there's a lot of really great people working here. And for a long time, I've wanted to do a pay-per-view in Texas personally. And this made a lot of sense with this opportunity. And Koshe Irby, the COO of AEW and the great live events team here, had this idea. And when I recruited Koshe from Clemson University, where he was the CMO and had past experiences working in wrestling, this was an initiative he felt really strongly about. And it's something I've always wanted to do. As a wrestling historian myself and a wrestling promoter, it means a lot to be able to do that. And I can also confirm now, officially today, as a wrestling promoter in London this weekend, that I'm going to be bringing some of that great Texas tradition here to London this weekend, because I can confirm that the Von Erichs will be here this weekend. And it means so much to me ahead of a big event like this to have the Von Erich family here, a part of it with us in AEW, because AEW is a family and it's great to have them with us. And going into All In next year, I hope they'll continue working with us. And it's an honor that they had us in their territory, the Von Erichs, and great to have them here at AEW All In London, and looking forward to a big year in Texas next year as well. And all eyes on London this weekend too. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Joel. Jason Powell from Pro Wrestling Net is next, to be followed by Jim Barcelone from the Miami Herald. Jason.
Recent headgear, we'll say. It seems like you're pretty happy with WBD and Max these days. I'm actually curious about the exclusive negotiating window. Did you ever run past that exclusivity period? And if so, how much interest has there been from other potential network and even streaming partners?
It's a very fair question, and I think it's absolutely right for you to ask that. I am in a very exciting time personally and professionally right now with everything happening in AEW. Very excited about the show this weekend, but there's a lot of things happening in the office and meetings off-site and phone calls, and it's an exciting time. And the Warner Brothers Discovery relationship has been very strong for us, including this summer. I was able to go to Paris and spend a lot of quality time with Mr. David Zaslav and Bruce Campbell and the executive team. And there's a really great relationship between AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery, and it's never been stronger. It's really in a great place. And as for the exclusive negotiating or talking to other parties, I prefer not to get into any of that or talk about it. I think we have a really good thing going, and I think we have also, frankly, I hope, AEW a good relationship with the wrestling media. At least I try my best to be accessible and talk about things when we can. But right now, with the company in an exciting time where there's been a lot of reports, a lot of things said, but I do think everybody is starting to get a sense that there's a lot of excitement around AEW as a hot property. It was the #1 show on television last Wednesday night on all of cable and satellite, and has continued to really not only perform strongly as a television product, but also continue to create huge new revenue streams and opportunities, and also that has just been having great shows and on a string of really, I think, great TV shows. I'm really proud of this run of Dynamites. I think since Forbidden Door leading into Wembley, the TV has been excellent, in my opinion. I'm really proud of it, and I think there's been a lot of great pay-per-views and a lot of great shows this year, and I know that AEW All In this weekend is going to be absolutely tremendous. So as a wrestling promoter and a creative person in wrestling, I'm very excited about what's happening in AEW, but as a business person, also very excited about growing this business because we have great opportunities out there, and we're very blessed to work with a great partner like Warner Brothers Discovery that's treating us incredibly well in these negotiations right now. And it's a very complex negotiation. I mean, it's not as simple as shaking hands and slapping a couple numbers down on paper. There's a lot of things to figure out, and it's an exciting time for us to hopefully create some very new opportunities to grow AEW in exciting new ways and build on top of what we've really done over the past 5 years. Thanks for asking, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Jim Barcelone from the Miami Herald is next, and I will follow Jim with a write-in from John Powell from Slam Wrestling. First, Jim.
Hey, thanks everybody. This will be really exciting. AEW All In, London, always a hot crowd there too. I'm curious because on the card, you have 3 matches focusing on women, and that's cool. And out of that, Dr. Britt Baker's back, and Mercedes Moné has added Timeless Toni Storm, Mariah May, what they've been doing, Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander. Camille, that's the one, a blue chipper. What are your thoughts of adding Camille to the roster and even her being a part of this?
Well, Camille's a great part of the roster in AEW now, and we love having Camille the Brickhouse here in AEW. She has been instrumental in Mercedes Moné's dominance since, in particular, this past month. And we've seen a lot of interactions with Camille and Dr. Britt Baker. We've seen a lot of interactions with Mercedes Moné and Dr. Britt Baker. It's an exciting time and exciting program. And, Camille being involved here is great. And like you said, there's a lot of great things happening. And I'm really blessed to work with this great roster and the great team we have in AEW. And I feel really good about the shows. I've been really happy about each of those matches you named. And I think it's been a long time in the making. It's so excited about Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May to come to London, and a story that's been ripped straight from the West End, and a story that has come from the hills of Hollywood to here in London. This awesome opportunity for AEW to have this great AEW Women's World Championship match with Toni Storm and Mariah May, and tell this story. Timeless Toni Storm's rise since last year's AEW All In has been meteoric, and we've seen the evolution into Timeless Toni Storm, one of my personal favorite stars in all of wrestling and somebody I really believe in, and her former protege, Mariah May. It's been a story a long time coming, and it's crazy to think how far it's come in a year. But it's something I've thought about and wanted to see here at Wembley Stadium in this spot for over a year now, and have thought and worked and planned with our great team. And then to have, like you said, it's tremendous to have Dr. Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné, 2 of the top stars, going one-on-one, to have the DMD versus the CEO for the TBS title. That's tremendous. And that, AEW All In is the place for these huge dream matches, and that's a match I think a lot of fans have wanted to see for a long time. Two of the top rising stars in women's pro wrestling, Dr. Britt Baker, AEW's original homegrown star, taking on Mercedes Moné, one of the biggest free agent acquisitions ever for the TBS Championship. One of them is going to be the face of AEW on TBS going forward, and I'm so excited about the DMD versus the CEO for the TBS title. I think it's a huge match, and we've seen a lot of interest in it from everything on TV, Dynamite, Collision this past week, and also Comic-Con and outside of wrestling. So that's tremendous, and Willow and Chris Statlander have continued to build that rivalry, the former friends. We've seen a lot of great matches, and I'm excited for this, and we'll be excited to see two wrestlers with very little in common with either of them or with each other, and Tomohiro Ishii and Stokely Hathaway involved as well. It should be a great show. I'm really proud of what we're doing in AEW, top to bottom. The women and men in this company, all of them are doing a fantastic job, and the men and women here are going to put on a great show this weekend with AEW All In, top to bottom.
Thank you, Jim. Tony, here's a write-in from John Powell from Slam Wrestling, and then Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy will follow. John's question is pretty simple. How proud are you at being able to highlight many UK talents during the show?
Well, that's a great question. I'm very proud. We have some top wrestlers in AEW who are from the UK and have competed extensively in the UK, and it's something I'm very proud of. You know, you want to have those homegrown stars. Just like in the Premier League, there's a league of top stars from all over the world competing in this elite sporting league, and you want to have the homegrown stars, and you want to have the top competition, the top stars. They come from all over the world to play in the Premier League or wrestle in AEW. It's great to have the homegrown stars too. And here in London specifically, but also all around England and the UK, there's top wrestling and some of the most passionate, exciting wrestling fans. I've gone to wrestling shows all over England, and I love pro wrestling here. And it was great to have AEW make our debut in Wales last night as well. And it's great to be able to feature a lot of the great UK wrestlers on the AEW roster. And I think the fans, when we're wrestling, doing Dynamites, Collisions, Rampage, and pay-per-views, the large percentage of them take place across North America and US and Canada. And, you know, week in, week out, you still see top UK wrestlers on the show. And then when we come here to Europe and wrestle in the UK, there's so much excitement when AEW is in town or just in the country. And I think, you know, it really speaks to how great our homegrown wrestlers are and our international talent. And that's a real point of pride for AEW, absolutely, especially when we're here in London and here in the UK. Thanks for asking.
Thank you very much, John. Amy Nemedy from WrestleJoy is next, to be followed by Mark O'Brien from Body Slam and Irish Wrestling Entertainment. Amy.
Hello, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
I'm here. Hey, Amy. Hey.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
Hey.
Hi. So you had mentioned earlier about being a promoter and a historian and a creative mind in wrestling. And to that end, I'd actually really like to dive in a little bit more on Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May. So this is one of the most anticipated matches on the card. This storyline has become perhaps arguably the greatest women's storyline of all time, and certainly one of the best in professional wrestling, captivating fans all over the world. You've drawn parallels with Golden Era Hollywood movies such as All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard, Baby Jane, among others. Last year at All In, this story really began taking shape with Toni Storm as she started coming out to that black and white movie reel for her entrance. And Mariah May made her debut just a couple of months later. As we begin to look forward to what could maybe be heading to the final curtain call, can you talk about the process of bringing this story to Wembley, and has it shaped how you've been developing memorable storylines in AEW across the board? Thank you.
Thank you for asking. It's personally, for me, one of my favorite things I've ever worked on. I think so much of Timeless Tony Storm and Mariah May, and I think that they're going to have a great match. I loved the pairing and working with them, and it's something I'm really proud of. And when it came time, when that fateful day happened for Mariah to flip the switch and make the turn, I thought it was one of the greatest moments ever in AEW and one of my favorite wrestling moments when Mariah turned on Tony at the culmination of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And for their match to happen on this huge stage, the biggest stage in AEW and this grand pro wrestling stage, Wembley Stadium, the sporting mecca, I just think it's perfect, and it's the perfect city for the rivalry to culminate in too, as one of the world's capitals of the arts. And that's what this story is inspired by. And I love those films. Sunset Boulevard I saw many, many years ago and was a classic. And All About Eve I saw when I first started living in LA. It was a movie that a friend recommended to me about 10 years ago. And I watched it before I had a house in LA. I was staying in London, ironically, in the London, West Hollywood, actually. And very fittingly. And waiting for to move into a house. And then, many years later, obviously with AEW, and we were backstage. I can't remember what city I was in, but it was at a Dynamite, and I was talking to Tony Storm, and I told Tony Storm that I saw something here, and there was an opportunity to create a new character, and it's something that I thought was her. And the best wrestling characters are when you see something in a wrestler and you turn it up and you go past the 10 on the dial, like in Spinal Tap, try to go to 11 with that thing and really show the fans that side. And to me, Tony Storm is this just classic personality. And I think she's so elegant and brilliant and articulate, yet she's this tough lady. And she reminds me a lot of Betty Davis in All About Eve. She's much younger, but the idea of having this real hardened veteran who is just so classy and bigger than life. And to me, that star of the screen in that forgotten black and white era, that's timeless. Tony Storm, who's timeless, and it could be in any era, but she captures that elegance and that essence. And so that's what I saw Tony Storm's character really changing. And this was over a year ago. This was like last summer, probably early. Actually, I think it was right after Double or Nothing. And I started to think about, because it was all one story. And, not only for Tony that I saw this progression, but an opportunity to do something and tell a bigger story. And Mariah is the counterpoint in that story. And it was right after Double or Nothing last year when I first reached out to Mariah to come to AEW. And she was very eager to be a part of not only AEW, but to work in such an exciting story. And there were parts of it that I don't think anybody necessarily everybody's watched all the films that I was talking about or all the references. So I started working on this, and this idea of building this partnership and this mentorship and really introducing Mariah, but then getting the act where they became an indispensable part of AEW television and really inseparable, where you saw Tony Storm, you saw Mariah May and Luther. And, he's an important part of the story too. And he's been at Tony's side the whole time. And when you look back at when Mariah debuted, I put Luther in right around the same time by design. And I had, not only because he bears some similarities to Norma Desmond's husband in Sunset Boulevard. Sorry for the, Norma Desmond's butler in Sunset Boulevard. Spoil for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's been, it's been like 70 years. So I can't say spoiler alert at this point, but yes. So I think it's really, really been a great thing working with them and introducing the references and the stories, but then another person along the way who, it's like if you're coaching a team, you can't coach a football team by yourself. You can't coach a basketball team. You need great coaches that are going to do a lot of work and they're philosophically similar. And there are some people I work with on some programs and ideas that are good coaches, and that people that I can put with me, good assistant coaches, good right hand people that in any sport you need, including wrestling. And in this case, there were not a lot of people. There were not a lot of women and men that had all the references and understood what I was talking about. And probably for these kinds of references and things and tying it to wrestling, the person I knew who actually hadn't really ever worked on any stories, but then wasn't really doing that for us at that point, was RJ City, who's the probably one of the more articulate and well-read, and certainly about the cinema, one of the best people you'll find around wrestling, certainly. And, if I was talking about old movies and stuff, that would be who I went to. So I went to him and told him I had this big idea. I think I can do this. I have Tony, Mariah, Luther. I have all the pieces. But, week to week, I need somebody to come in and really be my right hand and deal with a lot of the ideas and help me with the writing and help me, tie my vision for this together. And he's been tremendous. And the thing is, what's made it all work is it played to everybody's strengths. And this is Timeless. Toni Storm is Toni. Like, she's just absolutely this for somebody at her very young age. It's incredible to have somebody so well traveled and brilliant. I really love working with Toni, and I think that Timeless Toni Storm is larger than life, and that's like her. That's what she is. And then Mariah introducing a new star to the American television audience. It's not necessarily how we always do it, the way we did it. A lot of times we debut people off of their indie gimmick or their gimmick internationally they've done, or we bring in a wrestler from overseas or another company and try to do a presentation of what they've done in wrestling. And in this case, it was not Mariah's presentation she was doing in wrestling. It was something totally different. And I think she, at first, probably was wondering why I wanted to do that. But then when you see the story and the plan, it makes sense. And, most people come into AEW historically. A lot of times we'll bring people in and they do what the fans have seen. If they came from Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, or were a Lucha Star, typically we've done things like that. That's what I think makes it even more interesting when you introduce a new character that's completely different from what they've done before. It might mean, frankly, that I have a big plan for somebody like Mariah May or Hologram, in fact. And in Mariah's case, to come back here to London and, like I said, one of the world's leading capitals of the arts and entertainment, and also pro wrestling, and also her hometown. And for the protege to step out of the shadow of the mentor in such a really memorable, indelible way in pro wrestling when Mariah turned on Toni, I think it's very fitting that they have the match here on this grand stage at Wembley Stadium this Sunday, just hours from now, really, at AEW All In. It's been a long time coming, and it's also been one of my favorite things I've ever been able to work on. So credit to everybody involved and to the fans who have really supported it and believe in it. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Mark O'Brien from Body Slam and Irish Wrestling Entertainment is next, to be followed by Ella J, who has a writing question. Ella's from A Wrestling Gal. Mark?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Tony. Listen, thank you very much for having me on. Firstly, I want to say congratulations. This is 2 years in a row. You've sold more than 50,000 tickets in Wembley. I'm not sure people on the call will fully appreciate this time of year. All the football teams are back. This is the UK bank holiday. All the kids are going back to school. Incredible achievement. I wanted to ask you, what did it mean to you personally? This is following on from last year, where there was so many more additional programs and so many more additional pay-per-views being programmed this year across Europe, across the UK. How big of an achievement is it this year to surpass that 50,000 number mark once more? Thank you.
That's tremendous, and we can do even more. It's going to be a great go-home week, and I expect a great closeout. We had a huge closeout last year that was beyond everybody's expectations, and I expect we can continue to do that. And that's what AEW has been doing since the beginning. We've been defying the odds. We've been doing things that have been unprecedented in wrestling, and we'll continue to do that. It's an exciting time to bring that up as we are embarking on such exciting times with this new media rights deal that's going to bring new exciting things to our fans that I'm excited about. And the biggest thing that we have to look forward to is what's just hours away. The huge event, AEW All In. And for fans all over Europe, for anybody who can make it to London this Sunday, I promise you, you're going to want to be there in person. If you can't be there, it's worth the early start on pay-per-view for all the fans in the U.S. It's an NFL-style kickoff. It's like 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. NFL hasn't kicked off the regular season yet, but we are all used to that kickoff time, and I think it'll be worth the pay-per-view for everybody who buys it. It's such a great event, and I think that's why it's been able to draw huge audience for the second year in a row, and will continue, I believe, next year and for many years going forward, with AEW All In being this massive platform and great success. And it's a huge credit to everybody in AEW that's involved in that, and also to our fans that just keep turning out and supporting us. And here in London, and all the fans coming in from all over Europe and all over the world for this event, it's really proven to us that we made the right choice coming back here. I'm very excited about this event, and this is my favorite place in the world where I am right now. And it's great to be here and excited to bring the best of AEW here to Wembley Stadium in London.
Thank you very much, Mark. Tony, I got a write in here from Ella J from a Wrestling Gal, and then we'll follow from with Rick Acino from Sports Illustrated. Ella's got a question regarding one of the big stars of many stars this weekend, Bryan Danielson. And she says that he's had quite a storied career spanning 25 years. What do you think his legacy is in regard to All Elite Wrestling?
What a great question. I think Bryan Danielson has come here, and the 3 years he spent with us since his arrival have been a very important chapter in a career that, to me, is start to finish one of the greatest careers ever in wrestling. I put Bryan Danielson as one of my personal favorite wrestlers ever, and somebody who I have so much respect for, who's built an audience worldwide and had people supporting him before he ever really had that huge international television platform. He was already known and established, and I don't think there's anybody that would work harder or is more respected by their peers. And that's why it's an honor to work with him backstage. It's an honor to work with him off-site, and especially whenever Bryan Danielson is at a wrestling show, and especially when Bryan Danielson's in the ring or around the ring. We're all very blessed to have him. He's been a captain of this team in AEW, and as he approaches the final countdown this Sunday, as we're going into what could be the final match of Bryan Danielson's entire wrestling career, just hours from now. Certainly, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on it. I thought we put together an excellent video package highlighting a lot of Bryan's career, including so many things outside of AEW and before AEW was even a possibility. And for decades, he's been doing it at the highest level. I think there's even more of an emotional component, because for so many of us who love Bryan and believe in him and are fans of him, like I am, and I do, I think we all feel like we're living on free time. Like this is all bonus balls for us, right? Because we all thought he was gone a long time ago. And then he came back. And now it's all gravy. It's like everything he's done has been building on top of this great legacy that for a lot of us, we thought in terms of wrestling matches was probably over a long time ago. And what he's been able to come back and do and be, in my opinion, better than ever, and have the run that I think you can hold up against everything he's done and say that it's been the best and that this is the best Bryan Danielson. I'm very proud of that. And up to this point, he's continued to excel. He's continued to amaze. But the person he's wrestling this Sunday is a great, great world champion in Swerve Strickland. And we've seen Swerve Strickland. This is his time, and Wembley Stadium will be his house. and Swerve has had this dominant year. And in the past year, ever since last year's AEW All In, he's been wrestling at the very highest level. He's beaten everyone he's faced effectively and has continued to knock down people at the very top of the business, and also had great matches in the process. Some of the best we've ever had in AEW, and that's something the two wrestlers have in common. They both wrestled at the highest level, and they both had some of the best matches we've ever had in AEW. And the stakes, the highest possible, title versus career, to have a great champion putting the championship up against this great career, and to have it be at Wembley Stadium and have this massive crowd and the promise of the drama and the action. And for a lot of us, what we know is going to be a great match and has been a great story on television. I'm very excited for that. So, it's been a great chapter in AEW's history. And I also think it's been a great chapter in Bryan Danielson's career. And I'm really looking forward to AEW All In and the final countdown for Bryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Ella. Rick Acino from Sports Illustrated is next, to be followed by Lyric Swinton from Blavity. Rick?
Thanks for doing this as always.
Thank you.
So really looking forward to the show this weekend. I do want to ask about somebody who's not currently booked for the show. I mean, obviously they're safe to assume there's going to be a few surprises in that Casino Gauntlet, so maybe he's there. But there has been a lot of online chatter this week regarding Ricky Starks, even some comments that he may no longer be under contract with AEW. I'm just hoping maybe you can clear some things up. Is there anything definitive you can tell us regarding Ricky's AEW status and when we might see him on TV again?
Well, Ricky's been a great star in AEW. He's been a champion here and has had great matches here. And I think very highly of Ricky. He's somebody that has been here for several years, and he's under contract in AEW. He's a well-regarded wrestler here in AEW.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tony? Let's go to Lyric Swinton from Blavity, and we'll follow Lyric with Stephanie Chase from Stephanie Chase on Wrestling. Lyric? Lyric, are you with us?
No, he lost his audio. We probably need to come back to him.
Oh, we lost her? Okay, this is she.
Okay.
Yeah. We can get Lyric. We can get her back. Okay. Well, if Lyric comes back, we'll get her a question in, and we can get her another link or something, maybe.
Yeah, let's try Stephanie Chase next, and then we'll try Lyric after Stephanie. Stephanie, you there?
Well, Jim and Robin, we keep missing these good questions.
No,
Oh,
here's Stephanie.
Oh, good.
Sorry, I'm running to get the train. Some UK fans were disappointed that Dynamite didn't air live last night in the UK and then was delayed on Triller. Was there any effort to make Dynamite live in the UK last night, and what prevented it?
It's not legal for me to put the show on live in the UK before I put it on to the people that pay 97% of the TV rights fees here in Warner Brothers Discovery. I think they have earned the first right of airing the show, and they have the legal first right to air the show. And I can't put Dynamite on anywhere before it airs on TBS and TNT, nor should I, because I think TBS and TNT have been a great home to us. I think Fight has had at times some issues in the stream of the show. I would love to do the show at some point, if possible, on ITV and put the show ideally on at the same time as it's on TBS and TNT. I just can't jumpstart, if it makes sense, our primary media partner because, let's face it, in pro wrestling right now, those TV rights are a huge, huge component of the business, and it really drives a lot of the revenue, along with huge tentpole events like this one, right? AEW All In. So I guess, Stephanie, what I would say is probably for the live solution, obviously we had a great live crowd. And ideally, what I'd like to be able to do is simulcast it, but that would still be very late here. That's like a 1 a.m. start. It's not ideal. So I think for the streaming, this is an option. Obviously, there are people that stay up and watch wrestling live at a 1 a.m. start time. I know I have been one of them. I lived in England and I would watch wrestling late at night before work and after work and between shifts a lot. And, I'm a wrestling fan who's lived in England a lot too. So I do appreciate what you're saying, Stephanie, that people would like to see that live. But it's a big step for us to bring the whole company over here, to travel everyone over, because we want to do the very best possible event we can in the UK with AEW All In, and also do great TV for the first time we've ever done UK TV here in Cardiff. And that was a very exciting thing, but there are obstacles to putting it on live, but obviously everybody will be able to watch AEW All In live, either in person this Sunday at Wembley Stadium or on pay-per-view. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Lyric Swinton from Blavity. We're going to try Lyric again, and then on deck will be Chris Mueller from Bleacher Report. Lyric, sounds like we've got you.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. Hello, Tony. So last week we saw with the introduction of All In Texas, there was a powerful image there. You had 3 Black stars in the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena, TBS Champion Mercedes Moné, as well as AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland, being at the forefront of that announcement, especially since Athena has been off AEW television in recent years on her historic reign in Ring of Honor. Talk about the importance of having those 3 stars at the forefront when announcing an event as historic as the first AEW US Stadium show at All In Texas.
Well, it's a great question. To me, you want to have the greatest stars, the top champions, and the biggest names in the company, and those are some of the great stars. And it was a big deal to have the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland, the ROH Women's World Champion Athena, and of course the CEO, the TBS champion, the face of our home network. And it was great to have Mercedes Moné there. And we have these 3 great champions, and there were a lot of great stars top to bottom. They represented a great group that was a tremendous way to kick off that press conference. We had a lot of stars top to bottom, and those are 3 of the really great ones, and they were part of that featured group. And there you have, not only 3 great champions, 3 great stars, but I think 3 great pro wrestlers and 3 great representatives for AEW and ROH, and in particular what we're doing with AEW in Texas. But thanks for asking. It was obviously very cool, and a great photo with Swerve and Mercedes Moné and Athena all together. That's great. Jim, are you there?
I apologize. Chris Mueller from Bleacher Report is next, to be followed by Connor Devlin from the Westmeath Examiner. Chris.
Camille coming in, and you also mentioned the Von Erichs. And I'm curious, do you have a maximum roster size in mind when you're hiring these new talents? And how do you balance which talents you want to feature on a show as big as All In?
That's a great question. I think it is primarily people that have been wrestling on television. It's a culmination of a lot of the biggest stories, just some big examples of some of the big matches on the show. When you look top to bottom, I think you see great things that have been happening across AEW's television. And so there is a lot of selection bias there. It's definitely a lot of the people featured on TV, the matches, the rivalries, relationships. And these big matches coming up at AEW All In. You see all that, but also I think we're trying to bring in what I believe are the top stars from all over the world to AEW. And as far as the right roster size, it's a great question. It's certainly grown, but so has AEW. You know, what we do across AEW with 5 hours of television every week now, 52 weeks a year, we definitely needed a bigger roster than we did originally when we were doing 2 hours. You know, that's it's 2.5 times the amount of shows, and we've added a lot more people because we're doing, effectively 250% more content than we were at the start of this thing, in terms of TV. So for us, it's been really great, I think, expanding this year and having some of these huge free agents come in, and you're seeing them across this card. And a couple of the biggest name free agents in particular, with Will Ospreay challenging versus MJF, one of the biggest stars in AEW, to have your big new free agent in his home country and the national sporting ground at Wembley Stadium this Sunday, just really hours from now, and to have Will Ospreay, the former international champion, taking on the hated American champion, MJF, one of AEW's original stars. And when you have a great match like that, it's so great to be able to bring in a top free agent and have them really wrestling at the top of the company and put them in a rivalry with one of the greatest homegrown stars and these two huge names. That's a dream match on pay-per-view. And the match they already had that was 59 minutes and about 58.5 seconds. That was one of the greatest things we've ever had on television. I don't take it for granted when people go out there and wrestle for roughly an hour at the highest level. That was phenomenal. And we get to see Ospreay versus MJF bringing it on pay-per-view at Wembley Stadium this weekend. I can't wait for MJF versus Ospreay to see, again, one of the great homegrown stars of AEW and an American star versus a top free agent signing who we brought in, somebody that we've scouted and not somebody I've known and watched since before we even launched AEW. And to have Will come in here and challenge MJF, that's a big deal. And you have a big free agent signing like Mercedes Moné, who's come in, become the TBS champion, been featured across AEW TV, and taking on, again, a top homegrown star, somebody that was there from the very beginning, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And that's a huge match. And to have the DMD versus the CEO for the TBS title at AEW All In this Sunday, that's awesome. And these are, to me, exciting matches, exciting rivalries, and they've been great stories on television. And if you're watching the shows, I think less and less people are saying that about, that they want to see more stories because there's so much story on the show. And I think if you're really watching it, the people paying attention have seen that. And it's been really something that we've gotten so much positive feedback on how great the flow has been on our shows, especially Forbidden Door. It's gotten even stronger as we built towards AEW All In. Our track record this year on pay-per-view, I think, is spotless. It's flawless. I think we've had top to bottom our best pay-per-views ever this year. And to come here with this card in this setting, it feels like it's set up for us to come in and have a huge success story with AEW All In this Sunday. And I'm really excited about it. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Chris. Connor Devlin from the Westmeath Examiner is next, and Connor will be followed by Aruda Vagoshal from Sportskeeda. Connor?
For the Sunday, and I just wanted to know, should we expect any returns or debuts maybe for the gauntlet match on Sunday?
Well, it's going to be a great match. As we know, the number one participant, the first person coming to the ring, is the former international champion, Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy has never been a world champion in AEW, but it's something that I think everybody would be interested to see. And you know who the first person in the match is. You've heard some of the big names clamoring to get in the match. Of course, you can expect some of those big names lined up. But the crazy thing about this match is you never know when it's going to end. It could end at any time. It's sudden death. So, Orange Cassidy and one other great star are going to start this match out. And you know that I'm going to keep sending stars out. It's a randomly drawn entry and at different intervals. And that's what makes the match so exciting. And it's, in my opinion, it's one of the best new matches to come into pro wrestling in a very long time. And I've been able to bring it just this year to two of my hometowns and two of my favorite matches I've ever been able to work on with so many great wrestlers, and to have the Casino Gauntlet match in Daly's Place in Jacksonville for the shot at the international title, and to have the Casino Gauntlet match at the Forum in LA for the shot at the world title, and now to have this Casino Gauntlet match for an AEW world title shot at All In this weekend at Wembley Stadium. These are my home buildings and my home cities. And to have my favorite match and something that I invented in Daly's Place out of necessity, and is probably, like I said, my favorite match idea I've ever had. And it came to me in our old Daly's Place office where there's a lot of magic. I think I probably should sometimes think about moving my office down to just work out at Daly's Place and in to the facility down the street. But yeah, I absolutely love it. And it's a great match, and it's going to be very exciting. There'll be great wrestlers in the match, and there's a lot to look forward to in the Casino Gauntlet and top to bottom on AEW All In. But the only thing that's for sure is Orange Cassidy's number one, and then there's going to be somebody else out there, and then this match could end at any time. So get ready.
Thanks, Connor. Runava Ghoshal from Sportskeeda is next, to be followed by Luke Lewis from the Newport City Radio there in the UK. Runava?
Excited to see MJF excel again in a new character. If you could share with us your thoughts on how this character change came up, the backstage reaction, how MJF has been involved in the process. That's it.
It's a great question. I think this new iteration of MJF is not my favorite person. He had some very not kind things to say about me on TV, but that's okay. And I think MJF is a great wrestler and a huge star and big box office attraction. And we've seen his true colors. I think that MJF was enjoying the adulation of the fans. And then when the fans maybe questioned him and his friendships fell apart for the first time, maybe we were getting a look at a different MJF last year. But I think he was not able to maintain that level of kindness and that level of humility and that kind of person that he was trying to be. He couldn't sustain it, and this is what he is at the end of the day. At least this is his dominant nature, and it's a different presentation. It's a different MJF, but it's MJF at his very best. And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me in different walks of life, different places, whether it's the gym or Hollywood offices and charity dinners, but people coming up to me and saying, like, I'm really glad MJF is a bad guy, and I like seeing MJF like as a real asshole, and that's what he is, and that's what. So I get that everywhere I go, and people bring it up to me all the time. Even my dad said it to me, and that's probably the highest demographic you're going to get in terms of the quality of their feedback and their spending power. So, but I think it's been great for AEW having MJF back, and he's a great American champion, frankly, and it's going to be an interesting international title or an American title match, however it comes out, with Ospreay versus MJF at Wembley Stadium. I'm really excited for this weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Runava. We've got time for probably Luke Lewis, and I think that's going to have to wrap it up. We're almost here at the hour. So, Luke Lewis from Newport City Radio, you get to bring us home.
Hiya, Tony. Thanks for taking the time to obviously talk to us. tonight, as you just heard Nicholas from Newport City Radio here in Wales. Great show last night. Obviously, you've announced All In for next year is going to be in Texas, but when you come back in 2026 has already been announced. Will that be in London, or could we potentially see, following the success of last night's show at the Utility Arena in Cardiff, could we potentially see All In come to Wales, go to the Principality Stadium, the Cardiff City Stadium, maybe from Rugby Parade down here in Newport? I had to get that in. Thank you very much, Tony.
It's a great question. We had a great debut in Cardiff last night, but London is a home to me and a home to AEW, so there will always be an AEW presence in London. I'll always try to bring big AEW events here to London, my hometown here in the UK. But I also love this country, and like I said, I've driven up and down and across to most of the football grounds, and I absolutely love this place. And I know there's so many great cities across England and Wales and all over the UK. And, so far we've only done AEW in England and London and in Wales and Cardiff, but there are great opportunities in cities. But I can promise you, next year, 2026, I'm never going to forget London. London's always going to be a big part of our plans, and AEW in London is really important to us. All over the UK. That was a great debut last night. Believe me, I think there's a lot of opportunities across the UK, but I'll never stray from London. We're always going to want to come back and bring AEW here to London. That's why we're so excited about this weekend. It's just one of the greatest places for anybody, any sport. But to me personally, this is a real home, and I just love being here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Luke. Tony, any closing thoughts before we close today's press event and look forward to seeing you on Sunday? Any final thoughts?
Well, no, it's great. Love this, Jim. It's fantastic. It's our biggest event in this great place. I've spent a lot of time in London with you, Jim, and you know this energy and what a great place this is firsthand. And it's just a magical time. And it's also a different time of day for me than I'm used to with these. I'm used to talking to all of you in the afternoon for my circadian rhythms, and doing it here on UK time. This is for the rare time that our all media call cuts into my dinner. So I'm going to go across the street to places I've been with you many times, Jim, and I'm going to get some food. Yes. And I really appreciate all of you supporting us, supporting AEW. This has been fantastic. Thank you, Jim and Robin, and the whole staff, and Danny, and the whole media team, and everybody that made this possible. And I can't wait to see all of you in person this weekend. For everybody coming to Wembley Stadium, if you can't come to Wembley, please check out this pay-per-view. It's going to be a great show, and it's just hours away. This is going to be a great wrestling weekend and a great bank holiday over here in London.
All right. Thank you, Tony. And thank you, everyone. It is a little bit after 9 o'clock where Tony is, so we're going to call tonight. But as always, we will be distributing an audio recording to all attendees shortly. And from everyone at AEW, I'm just going to echo Tony, our deepest thanks, not only for today, but for the past 5+ years. What an amazing ride. So we hope to see you at Wembley Stadium or perhaps even Craven Cottage this weekend in London. But if not, do join us for the pay-per-view on Sunday morning or afternoon, wherever you're maybe watching from in the United States. Best wishes, everyone. And once again, thanks for joining us today with Tony.